Welcome to the Career Ready podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all the things you need to be career ready with the Career Services Center at College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts for today, Michelle Malik, and later in today's episode, I'll talk about researching careers after a career break.
And I'm your other co-host for this episode, Pierre Michaels. I'm going to start our episode today sharing information on critical thinking. With the Career Ready podcast, we are focused on helping you be career ready in all aspects of the career and job journey. An important part of this is understanding the skill sets employers value and how you can represent those skills as you move forward. Our listeners know that we like to look at NACE, or the National Association of Colleges and Employers, to help us go through this process. As I said earlier, I want to share information about a core NACE competency, critical thinking. NACE defines critical thinking as identify and respond to needs based upon an understanding of situational context and logical analysis of relevant information. I want to point out how common the skill set is. Just to make it through our day-to-day life, we are doing these things. You are responding to information, you are processing information, you are making decisions. While we do these things regularly, it does not always mean we do them well. For most or even all of us, we need to sharpen and make our critical thinking abilities better. To help us develop the skill, NACE also provides behaviors for us to consider. One of the top behaviors for critical thinking is make decisions and solve problems using sound, inclusive reasoning and judgment. From a development perspective, this is where a lot of our academic work can come into play. When you are challenged to process problems in the classroom, it is meant to make you better prepared for those situations on the job. Internships and guided learning experiences are also great settings to enhance critical thinking abilities. However, the development of the skills can come from experiences, or as I would define them, any setting where you've applied yourself. Another important behavior linked with critical thinking is proactively anticipating needs and prioritizing action steps. This takes the process of making decisions a step further. Problem solving and critical thinking are often linked together, but problem solving is limited to current situations. Making an impact for the long term is best reflected of critical thinking. On that note, take time to self-reflect. How have you been involved? How have you worked on projects? And how did your actions create an impact? Critical thinking would have been needed in that situation. So now think, how can you share that impact on your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, or in an interview to showcase your critical thinking abilities? Now that I've given you some things to think about as it relates to your development in critical thinking and sharing those abilities with employers, I want to hand it off to Michelle to talk about career research process with a specific perspective of being in or coming out of a career break.
Thanks, Pierre. So yeah, that's a wonderful introduction. We will be talking today about how to complete some career research after you've come out of a career break. So you may have been on a career break due to a layoff, maybe being a caregiver, or even needing some time to rethink your career, which is all normal. Whatever the case is, though, maybe now you're ready to start researching careers. And here are a few things you may want to consider. The first being, you want to figure out if you're interested in a new career field or if you want to return to the same industry. So if you are wanting to go back to your previous career, you do want to do a bit of research to make sure that your career field still exists. Because if it doesn't, then it may be time to pivot. If you're wanting to return to the same industry, you may need additional training and/or you may need to update your certifications if that does apply to you. If that's the case, you'd want to figure out how to obtain your new credentials. So you can do a bit of research by exploring free career exploration websites, which we'll briefly review a bit later. Also, I would encourage you to talk to those in your field to find out more. So you could talk to previous coworkers or supervisors just to kind of get the inside scoop of what's happening in your field. If you're interested in a new career, Maybe you're wanting to try something new out, but aren't really sure what direction to go in. These are a few things that you can think about. So I would try to think about what you liked doing at your previous job. Maybe you could do that in a new career. And also, what did your supervisor and or colleagues say were your strengths? And it would be helpful to think back to some of your performance reviews because, again, this can help you figure out what type of career you'd be interested in. Also, this season, we've mentioned utilizing free career exploration tools, and I wanted to do a little bit of a recap. I'd recommend checking out a free website called ONET because you can enter your previous career title in the system, and it will populate a list of tasks for that position. There's also a plus sign next to each task, and if you click on that, it will show you what careers are related to that task. So this is a really great way to be exposed to different types of industries. Lastly, can you think of someone you know who has had to pivot to a new career? I would definitely reach out to them and network with them and also ask them about their experiences. I think it would be really valuable for you to know how they got started in their field, and it's a great way to gather more information as you're exploring different career paths.
Thanks, Michelle, for breaking that down. There's a lot of information to consider here as you're going through this and deciding what you want that return to look like. And a lot of times when we're taking that career break, it's not necessarily by choice. It's because we've got so much in life going on and we don't think about these things. So to just point this out, I think is helpful. And I encourage people going through this process, really do take some time to do this reflection and to determine, do I want to return to what I was doing? Do I want to do something new? What is it that you want out of this next step? And make sure that whatever you're putting your new efforts towards is something that you're motivated to do.
Thanks, Pierre, for your insights. Those are all really good things to keep in mind. The next thing to think about when trying to choose a career is to consider the following questions. Rebecca did a great job discussing them this season in episode 58, but to recap, you can ask yourself, what are my interests? What are my abilities or strengths? And what are my values? Now, you may not know how to answer these questions right away, so let's just make it easier by taking a career assessment. Here are a few we've suggested in the past. First, we have Career Coach. So this is a career exploration website with a 60-question assessment that you can take for free. You can answer questions about your interests, and then it'll match you to industries that you may prefer. You can then take a look at those career summaries it is giving you, and it's going to outline salary expectations, skills needed for the career, and also live job postings. There's also something called Career One Stop, which is another free career exploration website with 3 assessments that you can take. So there's the interest assessment, the skills matcher, and the work values matcher as well.
These are all great things to consider as well, Michelle, because they really help us understand who we are and some of these things that we have to bring to the table. But why these are very valuable as career assessments is it then connects us to careers where those things are represented. So I think it's great that we're taking this time to really think about these interests, abilities, strengths, values, and using these assessments to guide us through that process.
Yeah, I think they're very valuable to have in your back pocket. So after you've done some exploring and may have narrowed down your career options, it's time to start applying to opportunities, and you can choose to include your career break on your resume. So I want you to remember to not discount your experiences either. And what I mean by that is maybe during your career break, you may have volunteered, taken courses, been involved with the PTA or something similar. Add that information to your resume. If you took a career break to take care of family, you also have the option of adding this experience to your resume too. So for example, the company information would be self-employed. Then you would include the city, state of your work. So in this case, it would be where you live. Then you would have the position title as caregiver, and you would include dates that you worked in that position. Underneath all of that, just like you would with a company, you add those bullet points discussing what you did. And there you have it. It's on your resume. Also, if you did take any type of courses, you can have a separate academic experience section, which describes projects you completed and skills you gained or strengthened as well. Now, I wanted to add this in here too, that sometimes a career break is needed for physical or mental recovery, and doing something extra in this period of time may have not been possible. So it's okay if you are unable to participate in additional experiences during your career break. You can simply include a statement in your cover letter like this: I had to exit the workforce due to personal concerns, which have been resolved, and I'm ready and excited to re-enter the workforce. Just know that you never have to go into any more detail than that unless you're comfortable having that conversation with the interviewers.
Thanks for breaking those down, Michelle. I think it's really important to note the need to take care of ourselves, the physical and mental recovery, and being able to acknowledge that we took this break, but also feeling comfortable with this idea that we don't need to share a bunch of details. But I want to jump back to some of these other things you talked about of being involved. If it was the PTA or taking care of a family or anything along those lines, these are exactly what I meant when I was talking about critical thinking and experiences, right? Anytime we apply ourselves, these are all ways that you're getting involved and you're doing different things, and there's skill sets within that. So being able to communicate those transferable skills, right? Those skill sets that you used in that setting that will transfer with you to that next setting. So critical thinking, of course, that big conversation we had at the start of this episode, but there's the communication, the teamwork, time management, all those other things have a lot of value too. So those are the types of things that you can be incorporating on your resume as you represent these experiences.
That's a great point.
I also want to note, we're talking about the resume here, but on LinkedIn, you could actually add in a career break. That is a section, experience type of component to a profile. So know that even LinkedIn has recognized career breaks are such a common thing that is a natural component of a profile now.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to keep in mind, because I always see the career break section or tab that you can click on, but I've never actually explored that before.
Yeah. Know it's there and know that career breaks are an acceptable thing, but it's how you frame it. It's how you present that information as you re-enter the workforce.
Thanks, Pierre. We hope that our listeners feel better prepared to research careers after being on a career break, and we just want to let you know you got this.
Thanks to our listeners for joining us today. We hope you feel better prepared to move forward after a career break. There was no listener question in today's episode, but if you have a question you want to hear answered in a future episode, you can submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu.